say the Hindi translation is also ready.
जल्दी डिस्ट्रीब्यूट कराओ यार, जल्दी आप पहले इंग्लिश वो आ रहे हैं, करो करो जल्दी करो करो करो।
Just take circulate the copies.
take your time.
Can you circulate the copies, please?
Yeah, there sir, there sir.
Since the change of government, you mean? Okay.
इधर इधर बैठो जल्दी करो।
No, no, there's something more here.
No, sir. It was we put it here, sir. After you we added, no.
No, no, it should have come here. That's
I
separate
understood it. I'm sorry. I understood it like this. So I put
No,
it
no.
here and put the end there.
This is a separate statement. No, I said paper put it on page 2, I said. There are 2 paragraphs that should have come there.
हो गया, जल्दी करो जल्दी।
Yes, sir.
You want to start?
No, sir.
Right.
Both are these are
I need 1 in the hand.
Good afternoon to all of you. I had initially thought that between last Independence Day and this Independence Day, so much has happened, especially with reference to the promises made by the Prime Minister, that I could talk to you about those promises. But events that took place yesterday have overtaken us, and therefore I have changed my mind and decided to deal with the events of yesterday. There is an opening statement, and I will read it quickly. In fact, there is a supplementary statement which is on page 2. I will read that also, and after that we can take some questions. The monsoon session of Parliament has come to an end. It started with acrimony and ended with more acrimony on the part of BJP. Is anyone wiser at the end of the session on the issues that have caused so much debate? Yesterday, Ms. Sushma Swaraj and Mr. Arun Jaitley put up a last-ditch effort. They did everything except answer the crucial questions that arose out of Ms. Sushma Swaraj's intervention on behalf of Mr. Lalit Modi. Even as they tried to deflect the questions, some facts tumbled out. These are: 1, that Ms. Sushma Swaraj intervened with the British High Commissioner on behalf of Mr. Lalit Modi at a time when his passport had been cancelled and the case was pending in the High Court. 2, that the Ministry of External Affairs has so far not appealed against the order of the High Court setting aside the cancellation of the passport. 3, that there was correspondence between the Finance Minister, India, and the Chancellor of Exchequer, UK, in which India had demanded that Mr. Lalit Modi be deported forthwith. Given these undeniable facts, did Ms. Sushma Swaraj or Mr. Arun Jaitley answer the crucial questions? The answer is no. There are basically 3 sets of questions, and for the record, let me repeat them. 1, the Minister's intervention. If Ms. Sushma Swaraj wished to help Mr. Lalit Modi on purely humanitarian grounds, why did she not advise him to apply to the Indian High Commission in London for a temporary Indian travel document valid for visiting only Portugal? Why did she not instruct the Foreign Secretary and the High Commissioner to issue a temporary travel document valid only for Portugal? Why did she keep her ministry in the dark about her intervention? Why did she think that Mr. Lalit Modi deserved to get a British travel document rather than an Indian travel document? 2. The passport case. Why has an appeal not been filed to the Supreme Court against the judgment of the High Court in the passport cancellation case? What was the advice given by the government's lawyers and the Ministry of Law on the question of filing an appeal? Who took the decision not to file an appeal? Was it the Ministry of External Affairs, or the Ministry of Finance, or the Enforcement Directorate? What were the reasons for that decision? Why have the reasons not been made public? 3. The correspondence between the ministers. Why is the government refusing to release the letters between the finance ministers of the two countries? Why are Mr. Jaitley and Ms. Swaraj selectively quoting a few words from the letters instead of releasing the full text of the letters? What has the release of the letters got to do with the investigation into alleged violations of FEMA or PMLA? How will the release of the letters prejudice the investigation or help Mr. Lalit Modi? Which ministry or authority has objected to the release of the letters, and if so, under which provision of the RTI Act? I'm afraid that the two ministers of the government have failed the government and the people. Instead of a debate, we got a diatribe. Instead of answers, we got sermons. Instead of facts, we got a fudge. If the ministers and the government think that these questions will go away, I'm afraid they will not go away. We will continue to ask them. We will continue to raise them among the people, and we will continue to demand answers. I have another short statement on something else that Ms. Swaraj said yesterday, and I'm deeply pained and anguished that she made those comments. We take strong exception to the blatantly false references made by Ms. Sushma Swaraj to the late Sri Rajiv Gandhi and alleged payments to him by Mr. Kartoki. I wish to ask Ms. Swaraj if she was unaware of an FIR registered by the CBI into a number of persons shown as accused, including Sri Rajiv Gandhi. Was she aware of the judgment dated 4th February 2004 of Mr. Justice Kapoor of the Delhi High Court? Why did she not turn to Mr. Arun Jaitley and seek confirmation of her allegations? If she had done that, she would have got a rude shock. She would have been told who was the government's counsel in that case and who was the law minister at that time. She would have been told what the findings and conclusions of the High Court were. She would have also been told what the government, that is the Vajpayee government, did after the judgment was pronounced on 4th February 2004 and until they demitted office in mid-May 2004 for 3 months and about 10 days. Since Ms. Sushma Swaraj was either ignorant, which I find it difficult to believe, or deliberately uttering falsehoods, I wish to read a few paragraphs, namely paragraphs 3, 4, 140 and 141 subpara 1 for the benefit of Ms. Swaraj as also the people of India. There is the truth for everyone to see. This is a judgment delivered on the 4th of February 2004 by Mr. Justice Kapoor, and this is what the judge says in paragraph 3. The public servants Rajiv Gandhi and S.K. Bhatnagar were also charged for having committed criminal misconduct by abusing their official position so as to gain pecuniary advantages to all of them and having taken illegal gratification for awarding the contract in favor of Bofors. Para 4. To the pointed inquiry made by this court as to the evidence showing the receipt of bribe money, if any, by the public servants, either themselves or through agents. Mr. Mukul Rohatgi, learned Additional Solicitor General of India, appearing for CBI, candidly and fairly said that till date there was none. But CBI is on the trail to gather such evidence. This frank concession goes to the credit of Mr. Rohatgi, who, though during arguments, heavily relied upon the circumstances. Para 6. Result of 13 long years of investigation by the CBI, a premier investigating agency of the country, and 3 years investigative journalism, during which period large number of officers of CBI hopped to foreign countries every now and then to collect evidence against public servants, but returned empty-handed. As till date, there is no evidence to show that public servants had taken bribe in awarding the contract of guns to Messrs. Bofors and Co. Paragraph 140. In the result, the public servants are completely absolved of all the allegations leading to the offences punishable under Section 120B, read with Section 420 IPC, for having entered into conspiracy with Bofors and its agent to cheat the Government of India to the extent of commission amount. Section 51D, read with Section 52 of the Prevention of Corruption Act, and Section 161 of the Indian Penal Code for abusing their official position and accepting illegal gratification. Then para 141, subpara 1. To sum up, the following conclusions emerge. 1. Charges for the offences punishable under Sections 120B and Section 420 IPC and Section 52 read with Section 51D of the Prevention of Corruption Act and Section 165A read with Section 161 IPC against the petitioners for having entered into a criminal conspiracy with the public servants to cheat the Government of India and having abetted the public servants to commit criminal misconduct by abusing their official position and taking illegal gratification for awarding the contracts are quashed. I find it difficult to believe that Ms. Swaraj did not know about this judgment. It was her government. The government remained in office for 3 months and 10 days thereafter, and they have since been in government for a little over a year. We take strong exception. We demand an unqualified apology from Ms. Swaraj. I think I'll stop here and we'll take some questions. Well, I would have made a short statement on that also, but I didn't want to load this press conference with too many issues. In Mr. Anderson's case, I've read this in Parliament earlier, we all know the attempts made to extradite Mr. Anderson, and we are also familiar with the note recorded by Mr. Jaitley on the weakness of the case against Mr. Anderson. It's a famous note. A copy of the note was available at that time. I read it in Parliament. The less said about it, the better. But since Mr. Jaitley did not speak about Mr. Anderson, I think we leave it at that.
Any other questions? Sunil?
Mr. Chidambaram, there are two points. First is the operative part about, legislative business, that is the GST. That was something that you had promised to roll out in 2010. Today we are now in 2015. We are hoping that it will happen in 2016, which is unlikely, maybe most likely 2020. We are blaming the Congress party for being anti-growth. How do you defend yourself, especially with corporate India now looks at the Congress party as one of the leaders of something that was your game?
Well, corporate India, for about 6 years, privately complained that it was a BJP which was blocking the GST Constitution Amendment Bill. I can name corporate India's leaders who have told me privately that the BJP was being obstructionist. So So the starting point is BJP obstructed it for 6 years, but never quite spelt out what their objections were. Let me repeat that. The BJP obstructed it for 6 years, but never quite spelt out what their objections were. On the contrary, the Congress party has put in writing what its objections are. And I have taken the liberty in my last column of reducing the major objections to only three. Three major objections. A cap on the combined GST rate at 18% or so. Deletion of the provision which allows them to impose a 1% additional levy. And a dispute resolution body. These are genuine objections. If you have any doubt about the strength of these objections, I invite your kind attention to the first editorial in the Economic Times today, which completely endorses my column. I didn't write that editorial, by the way. Which completely endorses my column and says the government must concede these three issues so that the bill can be passed. Let the government say tomorrow that we are willing to concede these three issues. And I have said, again, I have taken the liberty to say the other points, we can talk about the language, we can look at that. But these are three fundamental objections. I've not heard anyone tell me why these objections are frivolous objections. They are not frivolous objections.
And you are ready for a special answer for that?
Yesterday,
One
Mr.
second.
Yesterday, Mr. Arun Jaitley. Yesterday, Mr. Arun Jaitley told Lok Sabha that wrong and weak steps were taken during UPA government to bring Lalit Modi to book, including that proceedings were being launched under FEMA, innocuous FEMA, rather than PMLA, and that instead of extraditing him, deportation proceedings were launched against him. This was also echoed by Sushma Swaraj in some
Okay.
way.
And I wish,
He said they will be ready.
I wish somebody was there. I think the Congress party walked out. I wish somebody was there to answer Mr. Jaitley. Please remember, the case against Mr. Lalit Modi was registered when Mr. Mukherjee was finance minister. The passport was cancelled when Mr. Mukherjee was finance minister. The initial case was and could only have been registered under FEMA. That is the starting point. After FEMA, in which the punishment is really fine and penalties, you have to investigate that offence and arrive at what is called a predicate offence. I think Mr. Jaitley mentioned that phrase, but nobody seems to have caught on to the meaning of that. You must find a predicate criminal offence. A criminal investigating agency, either the police or the CBI, should register the predicate criminal offence. Only after a predicate criminal offence is registered, you can go to the third step of a PMLA. Please read section 3 and 4 of PMLA. Therefore, these are sequential steps. In 2012, we were at the first step. But unless that first step is investigated, you can't move to the second step. And Mr. Lalit Modi was refusing to appear for the investigation or inquiry. So how can he move to the second step? Therefore, only after investigation you could have registered a predicate criminal offence, and only after registering a predicate criminal offence you could have moved to PMLA. We were in the early stages of the investigation. Today, of course, 4 or 5 years have lapsed, and the ED may have collected more information so that it moved to the second step. So what we did then, when I say we, I mean the Enforcement Directorate. You turn around and say the Enforcement Directorate is autonomous, you should not ask them why they do this and why they do that. And once the Enforcement Directorate does something, you turn around and ask the Minister, why did they do that? How is that possible? These questions must be put to the ED, and the ED must answer these questions, but I'm sure his answer will be more or less on the same lines that I've given today.
Sir, the foreign minister, when she was speaking on the House yesterday, she also blamed you for conflict of interest, saying that your wife had appeared for the income tax department.
Yes.
Was she trying to divert attention?
Well, she was, but she failed miserably because this was taken up in Parliament on 30th of August 2005, a statement was made and the Speaker declared the matter closed. What was the case then? The Junior Counsel of the Income Tax Department engaged Mrs. Chidambaram as senior counsel in one case for the department. Underline, for the department, not against the department. It was without my knowledge. The CBDT issued a statement expressing its deep regret for having engaged Mrs. Chidambaram and causing embarrassment to the then Finance Minister. All this was stated in Parliament on 30th of August 2005 and the matter came to an end. Let me repeat, she appeared for the department, not against the department. So where is the conflict of interest?
Uma Shankar.
प्लानिंग कमीशन को प्रधानमंत्री ने स्क्रैप कर दिया, नीति आयोग बना दिया। एक साल में नीति आयोग ने जो रिजल्ट दिए हैं, क्या आप उससे सेटिस्फाइड हैं? आपको लगता है कि जो जिस तरह से काम आगे बढ़ना चाहिए था, नीति आयोग के लिए बढ़ा है या नहीं बढ़ा?
Niti Ayog, I believe by last count, has 2.5 people or so. I have not heard or seen Niti Ayog do anything. Occasionally I see one of these 2.5 people make some noise. But I have not seen any paper, any work, any document, any plan prepared by Niti Ayog. I think one of them works only half time there.
Aditi.
Yes.
Aditi, you want to say?
Yeah, we'll come back to you. Why are you? Yeah.
One thing more.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for the question. Firstly, when I met Chancellor Osborne, either the High Commissioner or the Deputy High Commissioner, I cannot recall immediately, one of the two was present in my meeting with the Chancellor. When the letters were written to the Chancellor, the High Commissioner was requested to follow up on those letters. I don't think anyone has said copies of the letters are not available in the High Commission or in the MEA. I read the transcript. She said he didn't take us into confidence. In an RTI inquiry addressed to the MEA, they don't deny the existence of copies of the letters in the MEA. They simply say, we have no information or this information relates to somebody else. They don't deny the existence of it. And in another RTI inquiry, they say these letters have been handed over to the ED and therefore we cannot furnish it. As if only one copy of the letter is available in the Government of India. Be that as it may. So either the High Commissioner or the Deputy High Commissioner was present. The minutes of the meeting will say who was present. So ask them to please disclose the minutes of the meeting I had with Mr. Osborne in London. So the High Commission maintains minutes. The Ministry of Finance maintains minutes. Let them release the minutes. That is the answer to the first question. The second question is, yes, I demanded deportation. Britain offered extradition. It was an obvious legal trap. We discussed it with the ministry. We came to the conclusion, extradition is a legal trap. An extradition proceeding is a court proceeding that will take 10 years in the UK, and during that 10-year period, Mr. Lalit Modi will happily remain in the UK. Therefore, in my letter I said, I gave examples and said, you have deported so many people so far, please deport this man. He has no passport. His visa is cancelled. How is he in your country? Please put him on the next plane and send him here. Therefore, it's important that the letter is released. That letter will tell you why we demanded deportation. Look, the case of WikiLeaks, Mr. Assange. They want extradition. Extradition is a court proceeding. It's already taken 4 years. He's not being extradited. Therefore, extradition is a trap, a legal trap. And we discussed it, and we decided we are not going to fall for the legal trap. We want him deported. An Indian citizen who has no passport, no visa, should be deported to India. Yes. But that is wrong. In my letter, I have given examples of people who entered England on a valid passport and then claim that they have lost the passport or whatever and asked for asylum and permanent residence and they have been deported. So why don't they release the letter? Why are they playing hide and seek with the letters?
Mr. Manoj, I'll come.
By the way, the letters will come out one day. One of you enterprising journalists will find the letters.
Manoj ji, you want to
Yes.
from AD.
Listen, these deadlines are fixed by government. I can't talk about deadlines. All I can say is, let the government respond to our demand for a discussion and arriving at a consensus on some fundamental objections that we have raised. If they meet us and come to some consensus on the fundamental objections, I'm sure my party, which is the party which authored the GST, I mean, in all this cacophony, you forget that we are the authors of GST, and I can claim some credit. I was the first to announce GST. We want GST, but we want a good GST, as good a GST as possible. Certainly not this GST riddled with problems and issues.
I'll come to you.
I can't speak for the parliamentary party. That only the parliamentary party and the leader of the parliamentary party can say. But I don't see any reason why the party will not cooperate, provided the BJP accepts the fundamental objections that we have raised and finds a consensus.
Sir, considering that
No, you got a chance already. No, sorry. You'll ask somebody else.
Why Prime Minister is avoiding vital questions raised by you? How do you politically analyze his position as a Prime Minister?
Well, if he prefers to cheer from the sidelines and not enter the arena, what can I say? And he tweeted his congratulations for Ms. Sushma Swaraj and Mr. Arun Jaitley, naturally. But he failed to say why the two did not answer our questions. Maybe the Prime Minister will himself answer these questions one day. These questions have to be answered.
Prasad.
Oh, rubbish. I've never met him, and I don't wish to meet him.
Raman.
What nonsense. You take him seriously?
Raman. Raman there.
I've understood your first question. Yes. I raised these 7 questions in a press conference that I addressed in Chennai. Subsequently, others have raised these questions and other questions. So Mr. Karge was entirely right in collecting all the material and asking questions. What is wrong with that? We belong to one party and we try to speak in one voice. What is the second question?
The second question was that he says that Mr. Jaitley has today said that Congress wants that power should be centered in one family.
No. On the contrary, we are opposed to power being centered in one person, as in the case of Mr. Narendra Modi, Prime Minister. We are totally opposed to all powers being centralized in the hands of one person.
Dada.
Listen. I mean, these are snide remarks made by the politician in Mr. Jaitley. Who said it? All right. These are snide remarks made by the politician in Mr. Modi. The point is, nobody need go out of the way to save a family. I mean, there's nothing that they have done that deserve, that need to be saved. I mean, what are these statements supposed to mean?
I don't remember the sacrifice of both Radhiji.
The family has served this country to the best of its ability for now 5 generations. There are people who criticize the family, there are people who applaud the family. That is so of every leader in this country. We take both applause and criticism in stride. Where is the question of anyone wanting to save a family? What does that mean? If you understand what it means, please explain to me in a language that I can understand. See, light blue, dark blue, red are, I thought, were shades of kurtas and jackets people wear these days. How do I know whether the ED was right or wrong in issuing a light blue notice? Please put the question to the ED. I told you earlier, am I deciding which color notice should be published? Does Mr. Mukherjee decide, when he was finance minister, the color of the notice? These are decisions taken by the ED. And I suppose when the first FEMA offence is registered for investigation, he starts with a light blue notice, then he moves on to dark blue and to red. He can also change colors as we go along. And then the other question is what? Let them release the letters. Let them release the letters. What is this hide and seek about the letters? The letters will speak for themselves, isn't it? So why are they reluctant to release the letters? How will it compromise the investigation? The letter doesn't talk about the substance of the charges. The letter simply says he is required by investigating agencies in India to appear in an inquiry. He is avoiding an inquiry. He is in your country without a passport, without a valid visa. Please deport him. How does that compromise the investigation or the inquiry?
They actually say we can trace the case against
How? You must tell us how.
This is what the finance minister says.
Well, the finance minister's argument is weak because he cannot say how it will weaken the case. Does the ED says it will weak? In fact, the finance minister in the second part of his statement says we have moved forward and strengthened the case. So how did he strengthen the case without Mr. Modi appearing for an inquiry?
Supriya.
So the Congress party's policy was very clear. We support the idea of talks, but talks must be held under conditions in which we can be assured that there will be an outcome from the talks. This is the stand of the Congress party during the time when our government was in office. But Mr. Modi's government, and Mr. Modi particularly, has swung from one extreme to another. From 56 ki chati,
56 inch ki chati.
56 inch ki chati and biryani diplomacy to sending mangoes to Mr. Nawaz Sharif and sending his NSA. Where is the policy? The so-called stand of Modi government swings like a wild pendulum. It's not even a pendulum which swings within certain limits. There is no policy, and I'm glad that more and more people concerned with the security of the country have begun to write and speak that this government has no Pakistan policy, which is why all this confusion prevails.
Last question.
GST is one of the major issues that the Congress party, ADFK, is supporting in the parliament. That since you represent, you belong to Tamil Nadu, how
obviously you don't know the facts. This has been clarified 4 years ago. She was lawyer and counsel for a lady opposed to the Sarada group. There was a business transaction being negotiated. She was advising the lady, and the ultimate advice she gave was, do not enter into this transaction with the Sarada group company. So where is the question of advising the Sarada group? She was the counsel for the other side, and she advised finally in a written advice, do not enter into the proposed transaction with the Sarada group because the group is dubious. So I think you better collect your facts or brush up your memory. That's all right. See, you are repeating the question, therefore I'm requesting you respectfully to go brush up your facts, number one. Number two, you asked about GST. Yes, there is a dissent note appended by Mr. Navanitha Krishnan, MP, leader of the AIDMK parliamentary party, to the GST committee's report, opposing the GST tooth and nail. Now this was until about 8-9 days ago. Now I don't know what the AIDMK's position is after Mr. Narendra Modi had lunch with the AIDMK leader. That is a question you must put to the AIDMK.
Last question.
I cannot comment on any special session. That is an answer which must be given by the Congress Parliamentary Party. I've answered that before. But if the GST bill is one of the items in whatever session, special or the regular winter session, we would expect that the government take our objections seriously, discuss with the Congress, and arrive at a consensus. There is growing support for the Congress's 3 fundamental objections and some other objections. As I said, the Economic Times article is one of them, but there are others who have strongly supported. I have letters from businessmen strongly supporting the Congress's position. So why don't you talk to some business people? Apart from this pyrotechnics in online signature, why don't you talk to them about the contents of GST, and they will tell you how the present GST will affect various industries. We'll have to conclude now, yes. What? I don't know him. I've never met him. What personal enmity? I didn't even know he existed until he became an IPL commissioner. What personal enmity do I have? He's not my family friend. Yes. Yes. Well, when he said he will make, he said, Ms. Sushma Swaraj said, the dollar will become 40 rupees to a dollar. But you must have noticed they did not give a date for that. Maybe it will happen 20 years later, 30 years later. Well, I have not fully studied the black money law. When I study it and think about it and reflect, I will write about it and talk to you. I don't want to make off-the-cuff comments. Thank you very much. Now you can get paragraphs 3, 4, 7, 140, 141 of the judgment of the Delhi High Court is available. You can collect that.
We'll push the judgment, sir, on the mail.
Clear. Sorry. No, I'm sorry.
ये आपकी है आपका है
I said I'm sorry. Third time I
आपका
said I'm
सेल
sorry. Sorry.
this is your cell phone.
Yeah, I'm good.
One of these guys are going to walk away with it thinking it's a recording.
Right.